had something like orders and
Right.
you
So
have three kinds of data in that, but I could get only one thing in there.
I think were you going for the Access database by any chance? Because I think there's only one Access database.
Oh,
So I think if you click on Excel, you should find more.
come again? I didn't get to.
Yeah. So you are navigating into the folder through the Explorer, or you are using the connect to data from Tableau and trying to go to that place.
Yeah, I tried connect to data using Tableau.
Okay, so I think in that
I mean,
when you're connecting to data, you might have selected the Access database.
oh,
So if there is another data source called Excel data source, so if you click on Excel and then go to that directory, you might find these three Excel sheets. There was a couple of them are Excel, and then there is one Access database.
in Excel I could find only two of them.
Yeah. So I think
Microsoft Excel.
mhm. So the orders you would have the Superstore sales. We have this orders, which is like a properties. So it would be under data sources sample. It should be there under that.
Uh, yeah, I found it.
Yep. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So just in case if you have any questions, before we start, just any questions at all, so we can just um, discuss those and then start with the next topic today. Okay. So what I will do is I'll go ahead with some topics today, and then probably once you practice a little more and try building some views and sheets a little more, I think you would have like questions once you start work on it a little more. So I'll just go ahead, and this is again I'll just go through the slides that we discussed yesterday, like the table calculations, the year to date table calculation, how we can achieve that, um, and also like just an understanding of the table calculations as to like what are the different types of calculations that you could do, in the sense you could do table across or table down, and difference from percent total and all those things, and then how we just saw these different functions that are available, a few of the different functions that are available, like the first, index, last, and lookup, size, and then total and all these things. So we did look at a couple of them, and then we went into this aggregating and disaggregating data. So we just like discuss like what is aggregated. Tableau generally, whenever you put any measure onto the column or the row shelf, it automatically aggregates it to the highest level if you do not have any other dimension in the view. So, but you can actually disaggregate it to whatever level you want to, based on we saw how we could disaggregate it to the order ID by putting the order ID in the level of detail, or we can just go to this disaggregating, this analysis, and then uncheck this, and it will automatically disaggregate it to the lowest level of grain. So, and this is just an illustration of that. And then we also discussed about the reference lines, so and how to add a reference line, and then how what are like different types of reference lines we could add, kind of thing. And then we spoke about trend lines. So trend lines, it will basically tell, how based on whatever scatter plot you have plotted, so what is a trend, a kind of a information it would give, and then it would build its own linear model. Tableau builds a linear model of its own, and then you can actually go and see how the model is built, and then you can create different types of trend lines, basically linear, logarithmic, or polynomial based on your requirement. And then you can actually split those into different colors, or you can say don't show one trend line per color. So then it will show just one trend line. Then we also saw something called small multiples, which are like trellis charts. So which are like a single view in which you plot one kind of chart for different different members of the dimension, either for different region, in this example different region, and across different years, the last 4 years. So that way, that is in a way, I mean, it is in a small view, it gives a lot of information about how the data has been over the last few years and across different regions. So and today, before actually getting into functions, there is something else I thought probably I can show and discuss about, is something called forecasting. So this is a feature which was introduced in Tableau during Tableau in Tableau 8. So there is something when we talk about business and intelligence and analytics. So there are at a high level. There are two different types of analytics that you could do. One is the descriptive analytics, which is based on which is just showing what the data is and how your data has been, how your sales has been, kind of an information. And the other thing is called the predictive analysis. So predictive analytics is actually catching up a lot these days, and then a lot of companies are investing in finding out, based on my past like experience or sales or any of these measures, how is my the future going to be? Like the next 1 year, how is it going to be? And I would like to see. There are lots of predictive analytics that's happening nowadays. Like there are different tools for that, like R and things like that. But Tableau also actually just provides us with a basic forecasting capability. So based on your information on the sales and for the whatever like duration we have, using that we can actually plot the forecast. So this what's shown here in the slide is a forecast. It's like this is actually the one in the darker shade of blue is the actual sales, and then one in the lighter shade of blue is the forecast. So it's actually simple. So we have we can build it. Let's go to the month. We can actually do whenever you want to go to a month or go down to a month or something like that, and you could either expand the hierarchy, or you can actually go and simply say here month. So it will automatically change it to the month and the continuous month. I can just put the sales here. So you see we have the sales information. Sorry. So we have the sales information over here. So now if you want to forecast, and one more thing is forecasting cannot be done unless you have a date field in the view for because forecasting is based on time and in the future. So it's all time based. Okay, so now if you want to see the forecast for this, just simple way is just right click over here, and then you would see something. Okay, or else you can just do this here. Okay, it doesn't come here. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay. It should be actually highlighted the forecast. Not sure why. I'm just looking at it. Forecast. Okay, I have an example. I can just go through that and then we'll see here. So here instead of the order date, I have the ship date. I'm not sure why it was not showing over there, but then it's the same view that we can. I'll just try building it again. Date and then go to month. Have a sales. Yep. I think there's something to do with the date. The order date probably has some information with which we cannot do, or lacks some information with which we can forecast. So basically, when we have the ship date, any of these dates here, and then the sum of sales plotted on the graph, and you want to see how the forecast is going to be, you can just click here, right click here, and say show forecast. So when you say show forecast, what it's showing here is it's a flat line. And there's a reason why it's showing a flat line, because there is something called a forecast model. So if you right click here and then you go to the forecast options, so it will tell exactly like what is the type of model, and how many months you exactly want to forecast. And then generally there is something like ignore last month, because last month would be the current month over here, and the sales would not have been we would not have the exact information of sales in the current month. So that's why we would always say ignore 1 month. Okay, and the forecast model over here, this is what determines what kind of forecasting line that you're going to see. So automatic, it would be like it will not consider any trend or any season. You can actually go ahead and say consider both trend and season. Okay, so and what it does is it actually considers the trend. It goes through the previous number of months over here, and then it identifies the trend, and it identifies the seasonality. There will be some seasonalities, something like in every November you see a spike here. In every November you see a spike, and that spike might be due to some reason. Either some probably because of any festival or any kind of holiday season and those kind of things. So that's why probably there must be more sales. So that comes up here, and that's the reason why we would generally consider trend as well as the seasonality. So when we select this forecast model, which is actually including the trend and the season, it will give us a kind of forecast, and you can actually change it if you really want to include only the trend. Then this is how it has been. Trend is something like how it's a trend would be a simple straight line, saying that okay, it started at 450K, but now today, as of November 2012, it's like 235K. Which is like it's come down. So basically, it's just giving us a trend. So this generally does not help. So what makes good sense is having the trend and the seasonality together. Then it will give us a pattern that could be this kind of sales that we might see in the next 13 months. So this is just a basic forecasting model that Tableau gives us. We can use this. We could use this for our basic forecasting, and in some places, they would have some forecasting model already built with sophisticated statistic tools. So they would use that to come up with their predictive analytics. So this is basically an example of how we can use the forecasting. And there is something. The next topic is something about drop lines. These are simple things which we can use to make our views or graphs a little more clearer. So this example is something like you might have a scatter plot. So we have a scatter plot here, and then we do it by product. We have a category, so we just do it by the category. So you see 3 lines over here. But then if you want to see what is the exact position of these, so you can just go and say drop lines, show drop lines. But you see that it's not showing, even if I say show drop lines. It's because of the way it is set. So if I click on this, you will see the drop lines. So we can actually go ahead and see the edit drop line, and see how it's been set. So the setting is something like drop when only selected. So I will say drop always, and then there's no labels. I'll say show me the labels as well. So what it does is it gives me the exact position where these where these marks are. So just one look at it. You generally get an idea that saying that okay, this is somewhere close to 900 and this is it's somewhere close to 6 million. But then But then if at all anybody wants to see the exact figure as to where it is, then we could use this drop line feature in Tableau and then use that. Okay. And then another nice thing about this is, there's another tool, just a small toolbar, a menu called from this toolbar menu you can have something called the summary card. So this is something which will actually give you, if you might have used. So let's do it on this one. So you might have used some this kind of you might have created some graphs over here, and then you want to see a summary of what exactly is happening here. So this actually gives us an idea as to what is happening. So this over here in this view you have count 60 marks, 60 different data points basically, and then you have the total sum of all the marks is this much, and then average is this much, and then you have the minimum, maximum, and the median. So this is just the information about your view, as to like based on whatever data you have on the view, it just gives you a summarized, like summarized in a small table, which you can refer to just in case you want to see, get a idea of what data is there. So that is a summary card. Now, these are very small things that we could use to make our, which could help us during our development, and we could try to make it a little interesting to use. Okay, and there is something called describing the view. So now, for example, you might have built a big report here, with a lot of things included, So for example, this we have this small multiple built, But then, if you once you build this and you want to share this to somebody, either the business user or you want to give it to someone else who's going to take a look at this report and then try to understand what is there in it, or it could even be could be to a testing team, like you built these reports and you want them to know what is there in this, instead of you actually writing it down, trying to write everything down and summarizing that, you can just go here and say, um, you can in the sheets, you can just go ahead and say describe sheet, So when we say describe sheet, it gives us, it automatically comes up with all this information as to based on whatever data it is currently there. It just gives us a description of what this report is doing, and what are the different types of marks that are available, and what are the columns or the measures on the row, or dimensions on the row, and then or the column, and then what's the level of detail. So level of detail is order ID. You can see here that's the order ID. And then what is the shape? So shape is based on the product category, and then what's the color based on? Okay, the color is based on the region. And if you have trend lines, what's the trend line model that's used. So it gives a whole lot of information about these things. So, and it also gives a summary of like order ID has these many members on the sheet, and there's just basic information about the entire sheet, so that you can actually just go copy this and then share it across to whomever you want to send it to. It could be either the user of the report, or it could be to the testing team if they want to see, and then it could be for anybody. So that's about these things, which will actually help us during our development. And there is something called annotations and mark labels. This is again nice little features, that is there. So you have a report, for example, you have this report, and then you want to say something, call out. Annotations are also called call outs. So for this particular point, I want to say something about this. So I can go and say annotate. So when you say annotate, you could be annotating a point on an area or a mark. So now mark is not highlighted here because I have not selected any mark. So if I do this and annotate, it will tell annotate mark. So you just go here and you say whatever you want to say about that, and you can give a note to the user saying that this is something that needs to looked into. So some kind of information if you want to share, and just do this, and you see that this mark gets annotated, and you can just move that around somewhere, anywhere, so you can move it around, and then you give this information. So the difference between annotating the mark and annotating the area is basically, I can show, I can do this now. Now I'll annotate a point. I'll just say okay. So this is something, it's annotating this particular point where I right click. Okay, and this is annotating, this one here is annotating the mark. The mark is nothing but this point, data point, not the point where I right click. This is when I say annotate the mark, it annotates the mark, and this one annotates any point that I click on the uh, on this view. So just one example, I'll remove this guy. Okay, I removed that product category. Now you see that it is gone. The annotation, mark annotation is gone because it was annotating that particular data point. So now in the view we don't have the data point, and so we will not see that mark annotation. If I get it back in, you would see it. But whereas you saw that even when there is no marks on this view, you were able to see this one because I had annotated the point. So a particular point gets annotated irrespective of what marks are there or not. So that's one of the differences, and I mean that's the basic difference actually. So and then you can also annotate the area. So just say this is something something. You can just give some information about that area of the chart. Okay, and then this area gets annotated. So this is again similar to mark, irrespective of what, similar to a point annotation. It just annotates the area. It doesn't depend on the on the mark actually. So even if this is gone, you would still see this area being annotated. So that's the difference between these three marks, or these three annotations. So based on your requirements, if there is any requirement of you wanting to annotate a particular mark, just to highlight and so that it's called out and the business users can immediately take a look at it, then you do this mark. And then if there is any point or any area in the graph that you want to draw their attention to, then you can use this or this, which is like a static annotation. Okay. And then along with annotations, there's something called mark labels. This is something that we've been using even in our class sessions till now, but I'll just show this again. So this is labels. So each mark can have a label of its own. So you can actually do a label here, and it will give you the information on the label, on the mark. I can rather take another example. So this is nothing but, if you say this, it automatically comes up, whatever is the measure that's been used would show up on the screen here. And if you want to add some more labels to it, you can do this. So you can do this, go here and insert it there, and you can actually do a lot of formatting as well. So if I bring this guy order ID here, and then this becomes a stack mark, and I can also put this guy here, gets added. I mean, it doesn't look good here because it's a kind of a chart, and I can probably it looks better on a when we have a line chart, and we want to show all the months. All the month, and you want to show this profit. Okay, and then you want to do the label. So this one here, if at all somebody wants to see these marks, they can go ahead and see the information. If you do this, it will take the automatic mark that is there, and if you want to put something else, then that is when you can actually drag this into the here into the label, and then you can actually go ahead and if you use some more measures here. You can insert that, or else you can, if you want to do any kind of formatting on that, this could be done here. So you can format these marks and then change the color, font, and all those things. And also, there is another thing that you could do is like on the marks, you go here, mark labels, and you can say always show or never show. So never show would be for this particular mark, and I don't want it to show. So it will not show. Now if I want it to show, I can just go and say always show. And also these marks, these labels are, I mean, they kind of help us, I mean, there are times when you don't want to see all the marks, you want to only see the selected ones, so nothing would be shown. Just go and click on this, and then you would see, So that's another way. I mean, it all depends on how you want to build it, or you just say give the maximum and minimum kind of a thing, or you just the highlighted ones or selected ones, and then or line ends, where just gives me the start and the end of the line. So this kind of formatting that you can do with the labels, the mark labels. Okay. Okay, and next thing is the form. I'll carry on with this formatting. So formatting is very simple. Whatever we've been doing now. All these things. Changing the color and all. That is what formatting is all about. Along with that, they have a lot of features. Which can be. I mean, a lot of things that can be formatted. So basically, whatever you see on this view can be formatted. Either it could be this axis, you just say go and you say format and then change the font size and all those things, if you want to do. So this is one kind of formatting, and then you can actually go ahead and in the formatting itself you have a lot of options. Like you can do the formatting on the axis and then on the pane. So these are like pretty this gives, I mean, Tableau gives a lot of features to do the formatting. We can actually, even if you want to do a cross tab, you can do that, and then there's a lot of formatting that you could do here as well. So you can. This is also a type of formatting. The color. So you can give it. You can give the color by city. So and there's a lot of cities here. So this doesn't look good. You can just do it by order priority. Color it by order priority. This is one type of formatting, which where you can, and the thing is that, I mean, this probably doesn't look good here right now, but then there is a lot of options that Tableau provides us to do the formatting on. There is the other one is actually you can go ahead and format the entire sheet. Uh, let's format the entire sheet. Let's say worksheet. We want to give any different color to the sheet. So that we can do here. I mean, this is something like this, and then you have different things like this is something called row banding. Based on how you want your um, consecutive lines to look. So you can actually change the row banding to a different color. And this is generally in Tableau. Like what happens is this when you in a text when you're in a text table, this part is always a header. Okay, that is what is there in the row, that becomes a header, and these whatever it comes after that, which is in the column, these become the pane. So whenever you want to format something, you will always have to format it for the pane and for the header. So now for the pane, I had changed the like the row banding color, so that got changed, and the header I had not changed, so that would remain the same. So this is something that there's different types of formatting you could do to make your I mean, based on the type of graph that you're creating, or table that you're creating, and you want to do different types of thing. Like you can put your grand totals. You can put your grand totals, and then you can give a separate color to them, and all those kind of different things you could do. I'll just do this. Okay. And shipping costs, you can put all these things and add the totals. And the total would be added for the columns. So if you have to have this, so it will show us the grand total. You could remove these things, or you could move them here. So there's a lot of different things you could do, and then you can give a format, labels, and then the size, and all the things, all the formatting that you do. You can actually, like actually, you even in the bar chart, you can give the size of each bar can be controlled by a measure, so or the measure basically. So I can give this, so now you see that this is something that can be done. I mean, not necessarily it looks the right over here, but then it gives you an option of doing all this different kinds of formatting. And also, if you have, there is something called copy format. So for example, if you created this type of a format and you have you format this to a different color and then horizontal, and then you change the, okay, keep it like this. You change the font and make it bigger and all those, and then if you want to have this format throughout your like sheets, all the sheets that you have, and you can just carry it over. I'll just show how to carry it over, so that even for a different, now I might have a different graph here, and similar graph plotting different values and things like that. So I can just go here, I can say copy formatting, then I can go here and I can paste it. So I don't know, some there is this actually if I change it to format the axis, okay. Um, okay, so I'll just do something. Let's see why it's not happening. See, if you can see that the format is getting copied here, but then it's not actually displaying here, because I think the what I've formatted is on the pane, and it doesn't reflect here correctly. So I'll just see this, and I'll show that to you guys. And but there's Tableau actually allows us to do a formatting, and then you can copy the format throughout your different sheets that are available. So, and then there's something like you can clear the formatting. If you want to clear the formatting, this is where you can go and clear the formatting. So this kind of things, so these are all pretty simple things, which we would use during our development, and because there might be times when we have to create different sheets and copy the formatting over to that, that's when these things come handy. And also resizing the tables. So let's go back to any of our text tables that we had. Okay, we can create one. Drag the measure names here. And this is one way how you can drag all your all the measures that you want to be coming over here. So once you have this text table, if you want to change the format of the tables, so you can actually you can change the table layout here, and then go to advanced, and then you can make it. This is something like you can change different things, number of rows, a number of columns that you want to have. You can change all these things. You can change the number formatting. You can keep it manual, or you can keep it automatic, and things like that. And this aspect ratio is nothing but a number of based on the number of columns and number of rows. You can set that aspect ratio. You can have it one, or you change it to different levels. And also you can actually resizing the table again. Resizing the cells is basically you can pull these things manually and make it wider or make it smaller kind of things. And also you could come here and then you can say taller, and these kind of, these are simple formatting which it allows us to, which Tableau allows us to do. Let's see one second. Yeah, see, I'm not sure why it was not working on this cell or this sheet here. So there's probably something wrong with that. I'll have to check that. But then you can see that whatever format was here and which I had copied, now that has got copied over to this. Okay, I know why. I mean, probably this is a mistake I made actually. So I should have taken the same dimension. So that's something I missed while doing here. That's why it was not copying. So we had formatted the customer segment, and then I was trying to apply that onto the order priority, and that wouldn't work. So this is a miss I missed. So this is how it actually works. You can add whatever dimension members of the dimension you have formatted, you can carry it over to the next. Okay, resizing the table, and the miscellaneous table options are nothing but what I showed here. You go to the analysis and then table layouts, and then you can have the advanced. So this is like you can generally what happens in Tableau is it does not allow it by default. If you I'll just show that as an example here. So you can have row ID, ship mode, and drag the product hierarchy. Okay, and then have the customer segment also. So now you see that we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on 6 dimensions, 6 rows basically. So if I try to add another one here, you see what happens. It gets all clubbed. So ship row ID and ship mode have got clubbed, and then all the others are there. So this is why this happens is because Tableau by default allows only 6 columns and 6 rows. So if I want to, and it can go to a maximum of 16 basically. So now since I increase it, it will go back to showing all in separate columns. So this is something like in general, we would, even when we are going for a tabular report, we would not actually show anything beyond 16 columns. 16 columns is for what it means is 16 dimensions. But if you want to show more dimension measures, which are these, generally in a report you would have only 5 or 6 dimensions, which would say what ship mode, what product category and subcategory and the product name, and couple more columns that you might want to put, and remaining everything, all the rest of the details would be the measures. So there is no limitation on the number of measures that you could have in the view, but for the number of dimensions that you could have in a graphic in a text table, it is actually just 16. So there is different type of format. Actually, when we are this formatting, what we will do is, when we are building these dashboards and putting the sheets together in a dashboard, that there is a lot of formatting that we would have to do. So I'll actually do that in detail, just simple small formatting things, and then how to change the mark labels, where to put, and all those different things that we can do that when we are designing the dashboard itself. So we'll just run through some of the functions that Tableau provides. Functions again are nothing but something that is there in the calculated. We have seen this calculated field dialog. So whenever you want to see or create any calculated field, there is something on this side, which we can use functions. Lots of different types of function it gives us. We saw how to create this table calculations, and we saw how to do this first, the last, and all those type of functions. Similarly, we can also do a lot of string functions. So you can do this on the customer segment. If you want to create something like with the customer segment, you want to do you want to check any, like, there are lots of functions available. So based on whatever requirement it is, there is one example I have, I think, created here, which I can show, and then do that. Yeah. Yeah, this is something like we have all the customer names, and then if you want to find out the last name, we can actually build these functions, because it is not available. If it's not available in the database for us, the first name, last name, it's just a single full name column that is available. We can actually build this dimension here by doing these different calculations. So what we've done here is, I'll show this to you. What we've done here is, first you find the place where you have you get the space, and then we use this. I mean, it can be done in a single calculation, but then we've just created two separate calculations. Then you go here and then get the from the length. This is just an illustration of what different functions you can use. So right actually gives us whatever column that you have put in. So it gives you the rightmost characters from this position onwards. So length actually gives you the length of any column that you have put in, any string that you put in. So let's just try doing this. If there is something called customer segment, I'll just create a calculated field which says give me the length of customer segment. This is as simple as that. So it would be here in the measure, because it's a numeric field that has got created. So I can just drop it here. It will always be continuous because it's a measure. I can just change it to discrete, and the customer segment, whatever it is, it gives the length. Okay, if you see it's summing it up, that's one of the reasons why it is showing us the value. So now if I just change it to because default aggregation is sum, it was just summing it up and then showing all the things. So now if I change it to attribute, attribute is another kind of aggregation that Tableau provides, wherein you don't really do any aggregation but just show the value. But it is a type of aggregation. In Tableau, Tableau considers it as an aggregation, but it doesn't really do anything. It just shows the value here. So now it just gives us the length of each of these. So all these different types of functions are available. I mean, these are simple functions which you can use to create. You can see what ends with, and there's a right trim, L trim, R trim, or a regular trim, and then date difference. This is again you can use these date functions. Yeah, sure. Okay. For the last name, what I did was like first I found out the position where we find the space. Okay. So and then which is write this function where I'm taking the last name. So I want the last name. So I'm going to the right of the customer name and then finding out the length of the total customer name, and from that I'm subtracting the place position where I found the space. So what it's doing is it's firstly it is having this customer name, and then it finds this position, something like this. For an example, I'm using this customer name itself as a name. So it finds this position, and that is where this this guy here, this calculator field here comes into picture, because I've already calculated the position. So this might be 6 or something like that, and then it uses that number, and then that I subtract that from the total length of the customer name. So if the customer name was like a 10 digit or 10 string, I mean long, 10 character long, and then this is space was at the 5th position, so the 6th position. So I do that 10 minus 6 and then get the rightmost name from there, the right part from there. So that's how this one comes. I can actually just change this. Instead of keeping this, I would just give a constant which is like 3 or something. Then you can see what happens here. The name changes. So it is actually from the 3rd position. It's giving me all the thing on the right. Since now we do not have a calculation as to where is this space available, it's just giving me anything that is, because I've given a constant there. So I can actually change that back to, back to this. Okay. Also we can use this is just some examples, but there are a whole lot of functions that Tableau gives us, which we can make use of, and you can try each one of that, like most of the things, like each date, this is, it just gives us whatever string we pass, it just tells us whether it's a date or not, and it finds a particular value position. And then left is similar to what we used with an opposite, instead of right, this gives us the leftmost things. And then you can lower, trim is nothing but if you have spaces, it will trim those things, max and min. So there's a lot of different things that it gives. Okay, so let's try to build something like we have the shipping date, ship date, and we have the order date. So if we want to find out the difference between the ship date and the and the like when it was ordered and when did it get shipped, so that the difference basically. So you can see that we can, moving on to the date functions. This is one function that it gives. You don't really have to do any subtraction and all those things. You can just give a date diff, and then it will give the value. So if you want to give it get it in any particular like format, either a difference in months or days, then you can specify it here. You can try doing that. Create a calculator field. You say date difference. You just select this. So it's a date difference between. So first we'll have to give the date part. So if I keep date, okay, and then I say order date, and then my second is, I can select it from here as well. So we'll go down and select ship date. Okay. it gives me the date difference here, so I can again track that, put it here. Make it discrete. This has to be so. Okay. So now you see the difference is 14. Okay, I'll just put these two dates also together here, so that you can see that next to each other. Again, whenever you're dragging a date onto the column or row, it will always go to a discrete. But then, if you want to see all the dates, then you have to choose this, something called exact date. When the moment you choose the exact date, what happens is it just goes and becomes a measure. A continuous date. So then you will have to change it again from continuous to discrete, and then make that change. Because okay, this seems to be taking a little bit of time. That's because if you have, what happens is if you have a lot of calculations, we have a couple of calculations going on here. So when I change the date and you have a lot of, because I have customer name here, so the number of records is a lot, it's like there are around 5,507 marks. So all those things get recalculated. So sometimes it takes time. So once I have changed it to exact date, then I have to change it to discrete so that you get the correct date. And I'll do the same with the ship date here. Put it, change it to the exact date. So generally, when we are building text tables, and it is it's advisable not to have too many heavy calculations in the view, because when we have text tables, each row will get populated on this on the view in the table, and then for each of that it will have to create all the calculations and recreate the calculations as and when the level changes and all those things. So generally, if it's mainly what we are doing is like a text table kind of reporting, then it is better to have most of the calculations pushed towards at the database itself. We can probably write a view or something like that and create and use. Okay. So this gives us a difference. So it's a ship date. So it has been shipped like 7 days and things like that. So this is simply put, what we've done is we've just calculated the date difference. We didn't do any like subtraction or something. We just used the date function that is available, date diff function that's available. So we can this one tells you like how you want it to appear. Now I want the difference in days, so I gave the day. So if you see this now, this will not accept, because it's case sensitive here. So it should always be response. And then you can actually give month. It will give you the date difference in month. This will always be 0 because it's less than a month, and only if you have some, okay, there's probably a couple of them which is like more than a month, the delay with more than a month, so it will show. So okay, so this is. And date add, again, you can date add is just adds to the with whatever date part it is. So in this example, sticking with a similar example or same example, we can say add a day over here, and then whatever number you want to add 3 days to the date. You can even use today. There's another feature that Tableau gives is something like just create a calculator field here, and then I say You can use a date function called today. And then do this. Just say today, and then it gives the current date. So today will always give us the current date. So again, this is we have to go through the same exercise again. You know, it's all it rolls it up to the year, and then we can change it to. We'll have to change it to exact date, and then bring it back to a discrete format. Okay, we can just do this. So this we can use these things. You know, it's like a today's date if you want to find out, and then find out the date difference and all those things. You could use this function, and if you could, so Tableau gives a lot of different functions for date calculations as well. And similar to that, you know, we have some the numeric filters, you know, which we can use simple things like to find out the max, min. These are all like again rounding, and then you have these also the standard deviations and Zn. Okay, now the Zn is basically like zero if it is a zero, you know. When we say Zn profit, then zero if null, you know, that kind of a thing. You know, if it's null, then it will return zero. If it's not null, then it returns the same. We can just quickly do this. I don't think we have any zeros here in the data. And of course, there are some logical functions that we can write. You know, what we were writing. We've written a lot of if conditions, if you remember the other day. So all those actually fall under the logical functions. So we can also take a look at a few of these. We can also take a look at a few of those functions wherein we can write. I mean that it's all based on how you if you want to create a calculated field and then use that. Even something like I'll just create a new one because this is a little heavy. Create a new worksheet, and then I have a customer segment or a customer. I'll just plot the customer segment name and the profit. Okay. And I can just write a calculated field saying if profit is greater than green, else red. So this we can use. I can give it. Just see that it automatically doesn't identify the color. Okay, just a minute. We bring it down a little. Yeah. So now, I mean, you have two separate profits, you know, but then it will not identify the color. We'll have to go and change it in the palette as to what color we want to give for what uh, value. So this is something like we can do to color the. I mean, I can bring this guy here, and so automatically it changes. So whichever row is having negative, you know, we can color that so that based on a certain based on a certain like condition, I can do the coloring and things like that. So I think is it okay if we cover a little bit of this probably tomorrow, the case some of the case functions and some of these logical functions, and also I think we can run through a little bit of the numeric functions as well.
Sure.
Okay. And I just wanted to know, we can have the classes both days, right, of the weekend. Okay.
I don't know because sometime they just notice that there is no class even though there is no notice. So I'm okay with it.
Okay, sure. So I think I'm okay with having the classes. Probably we can even extend it a little bit, like 2 hours, something like that, so we cover some of the things. And probably what I was thinking is, if you like practice and then have some questions, right? We can have a 30 minutes, something like that, discussing any questions that you might have, and then we could go. Actually, the basic things is, we have covered most of the basic things. Next would be probably some of these functions, and then like building the dashboard itself. Because once we start building the dashboard, there are a lot of things that we can do in the dashboard. Like the navigations, and then the setting up all the filters and all those things. So once we cover all those things, then we are almost done with the like the basics of Tableau. How most of the things would be covered from the desktop point of view. So after that, it's more like we can have some exercises, and then that's when actually you would pick up more. When you try, when probably I can come up with some kind of business scenarios, and I will ask you to create some reports and dashboards, and then we can do that, those kind of things. So how does it sound? I mean, is it good? Is it okay? Or do you have any thing else in mind, how you want us to do the class?
The way say it's good, the way we would practice, and you'll help us to answer the question after we practice and do it together.
Yeah, that would be nice, because then that will give I mean, that will help us to understand how we can just go building these graphs and then dashboards. And meanwhile, any questions you have, I can clear those, and then can be confident about them. Okay. So I think we'll stop for today, and then we'll continue with those some of the functions, and then we'll get onto the dashboards.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. Day.